Cardio, that dreaded word everyone hates. And I get it, most people associate that word with barely being able to breathe, sweat pouring out of them, and pushing themselves through what feels like torture. But here's the truth, not all forms of cardio are equal. Some forms are extremely effective for fat loss, whilst others do practically nothing. So in this video, I'm going to break down for you the best and the worst forms of cardio, specifically for fat loss, so you can stop wasting your time and start burning fat. So let's get into it. Firstly, running, the one everyone thinks of when they hear the word cardio, probably because they're traumatized from being made to run laps at school. Now, running is somewhat trendy nowadays, with every single city having multiple run clubs and running gear setting you back hundreds. And whilst it does burn a lot of calories, I actually think it's one of the worst forms of cardio for most people, and here's why. If you want to lose fat, you're most likely overweight, so running, especially on concrete, is going to destroy your knee, hip and ankle joints. When I was 70 pounds overweight, one of the first things I tried was running, and I went for literally a 10-minute run and it fucked me up. I could barely move for a week, let alone do any other forms of cardio or exercise. It also interferes with muscular recovery, so if you're weight training like you should be, your legs are going to be sore from the leg training you're doing. So by running on top of that, one, it will slow your recovery massively, but it's also going to prevent you from training effectively and progressively overloading. Don't get me wrong, if your goal is to get as lean as possible with very little muscle, then running is a great option for you. But if you're choosing a form of cardio to aid in fat loss whilst maintaining or even building muscle, then avoid running. Okay, onto the stationary bike, and I will say off the bat, this is the worst form of cardio you could possibly do. In fact, personally, I wouldn't even classify it as cardio. It's low effort, burns very few calories, and to be quite frank, it's a lazy man's cardio. If you're serious about fat loss, do not use the stationary bike. Stationary bikes mainly use your lower body, specifically the quads, hamstrings and glutes, compared to other forms of cardio which incorporate many more muscle groups, so their energy demand is much lower, meaning you burn fewer calories. At a light to moderate pace, you will be lucky to burn 250 calories an hour, which is absolutely awful. The only times I would say it's acceptable to use a stationary bike as your chosen form of cardio is if, one, you have an injury that's preventing you from doing any other form of cardio, two, if you're so overweight that you can't do any other form of cardio, so the stationary bike is the only option, or three, if you have a physical disability which again prevents you from doing other forms of cardio. If you don't fall into one of those three categories, then ditch the stationary bike. It's the worst option out there. Okay, onto the treadmill, and for some reason everyone despises the treadmill. And if your aim is to run on the treadmill, I somewhat get that, but I wouldn't actually recommend running on it. What I would recommend for most people is doing a high incline, slow walk. It's low impact, you don't really need to recover from it, and it's really easy on the joints, so it's not going to sideline you. At a moderate pace with a 15-degree incline, most people could burn between 400 and 700 calories per hour, depending on your body weight and your body composition, which puts it close to the calories burned from running but without destroying your joints. The reason it burns so many calories is because your major muscle groups are under constant tension and your heart rate is elevated to zone 2, which is the sweet spot for fat loss. And the thing is, the majority of people can do 30 to 60 minutes on the incline treadmill, which makes it so much more accessible than something like running. Your cardio needs to cover two bases. One, it needs to burn calories efficiently, and two, you need to be able to do it long enough so you can burn a large amount of calories. Literally just zone out, put a podcast on or one of my YouTube videos and just walk. It could not be any easier, and it burns a shit ton of calories. Just don't be one of those people that leans half of their body weight on the machine and then claims they've burned 700 calories after an hour. It doesn't work like that. Next up is walking outside, and how does that compare to the incline treadmill? Well, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I promote 10k steps every single day, and to be honest, walking is still one of the most underrated tools for fat loss. It's obviously not the most efficient form of cardio out there, but I like to see it as an add-on. It's sustainable, you can do it in increments throughout the day, and it does burn quite a few calories. You can very easily get 10k or more steps a day without really thinking about it. And for most beginners, it's the best form of cardio you can do because it's easy. It's a small habit, but it can burn between 300 and 500 calories a day, depending on your body weight and your body composition, and of course where it is you're walking. So think about where you can get your steps in daily, whether that's your morning commute, your lunch break, or a 20-minute stroll in the evening. Just try and get up to 10k steps if you can. If you can't do 10k steps a day, start with 5k or even 3k and slowly build it up over time. If you're watching this video, your goal is fat loss. So if you pair daily steps with a calorie deficit And another form of cardio, the fat is going to come off way faster than you think. So whatever form of cardio you choose in this video, make sure you pair it with daily steps and it will make a massive difference. Onto swimming, and it's one of those forms of cardio that sounds amazing on paper. Full body, low impact, and burns a bucket load of calories. However, for it to be effective, you have to actually be a good swimmer. In reality, most people aren't good swimmers. If you spend 20 minutes in a pool flapping about and doing half a lap, it's not going to burn many calories. Personally, I suck at swimming. I sink like a rock and I can barely paddle at 1 mile per hour, so it's not a form of cardio that I do. If you can swim, however, it can burn anywhere between 400 and 1,000 calories an hour depending on what stroke you do and how efficient you are. Due to its low impact nature, if you're severely overweight or maybe you're injured, it's probably the best form of cardio you can do because it works the whole body and it's really easy on your joints. So whether swimming is good or not for you is entirely dependent on your ability and your efficiency to swim, so you be the judge of that for yourself. Next up, the cross trainer, also known as the elliptical. Now look, it's not stationary bike level of shit, but it's also not great. You can burn between 300 and 500 calories an hour if you're really pushing yourself, but what I find with a lot of these ellipticals is they overestimate the amount of calories you're burning ridiculously. Some say 1,000 or 1,500 calories an hour, and that's just utter bollocks. The cross trainer only works well if you make it work well, with full range of motion, a decent level of resistance, and using your arms and legs. So if it's a form of cardio you like to do, and you can do that, then absolutely do it. But for most people I see on those things, they're at a low level of intensity, they're only using their legs, and they only do it for like 10 minutes and somehow it's telling them they've burned 300 calories. So unless you're going to do it properly, I do not recommend it. Next up, the rowing machine. And I struggle with this one a bit because one, it hurts my back, and two, I just can't really get into it. But if you do it properly, it can actually work pretty well. If you're going at a moderate pace, you can burn around 600 calories an hour because it's pretty intense full body form of cardio. The problem with it is most people don't know proper rowing technique, so they end up just using their arms. So if you're not going to learn proper technique, there's no point really doing it. Again, it's one of those forms of cardio that people either love or they hate. So if rowing is your thing, then absolutely do it. It's one of the better forms out there. Onto every female's favorite form of cardio, the Stairmaster, also known as the step-up machine. Now, if you can wrangle yourself one of these, which is very unlikely because most gyms only have about 2, it's a great form of cardio to do. At a moderate pace, it's actually pretty on par with the incline treadmill, burning around 500 to 700 calories an hour. It also lights up all of the muscles in your legs and your core. What makes it so good is that it's pretty low impact, but it's actually also intense at the same time. Just don't lean half of your body weight on the rails because that defeats the whole point of the machine. In all honesty, it comes down between preference when you compare the incline treadmill and the Stairmaster, so try both and see what you prefer. On to the last one, and this one's a little bit different, but it had to make the list, and it's martial arts. Personally, I do Muay Thai twice a week. I don't really do it specifically for cardio, but I love it as a sport, that's why I do it. With most martial arts, you're burning anywhere between 500 and 900 calories an hour, depending on how intense you are going, because it incorporates most of the muscles in your body, and the explosive movements require more oxygen, which leads to an increased heart rate and more calories burned. The only downside with martial arts is injuries occur a lot more often than with other forms of cardio, so if you're going to do this, be careful, because if you get an injury and you're out of action for 3 months, that's going to blow up your weight. Martial arts also have the benefit of teaching you a real world skill, and it's also one of the best stress relievers out there. I'm a bit biased because I love it, but if you could do a martial art even once a week, it's well worth it, and it's a great form of cardio. So whatever form of cardio you choose, whether that's the Stairmaster, running, rowing, incline treadmill, just make sure it's something that you can actually stick to for 150 minutes per week, because at the end of the day, the best form of cardio for you isn't the one that burns the most calories, it's the one that you can stick to consistently. That could be 5 30-minute incline treadmill walks, 3 sessions of Muay Thai, or a few hours of swimming a week. It doesn't matter as long as you stick to it consistently. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching where I will personally coach you to get in the best shape of your life and stay in that shape for the rest of your life, book a call down below. Other than that, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one.